Well, hello there, and welcome to Forest Biometric Research Institute's webinar series. My name is Brock Purvis, and today we'll be looking at some of the visual options available in SVS. So the database we'll be looking at is in the FP7 folder that comes with the initial install of version 7.5.3. I'm going to go ahead and open up the data folder, and I'm going to look at the Puget, and this Puget FPS 2017 7.5.3. So with that open, I'm going to open up the admin table, and the stand we'll be looking at is stand 1023, cruised in 2011, and we've got it flagged. So all that we need to do now is go into our add-ins and set up the schedule table. So to do that, we're going to go to Growth, Build Schedule Table Periods, and I'm going to go ahead and grow this for 50 years in 5-year periods. So with that in place, I'm going to select Build, and FPS will build the schedule table period. It begins in 2012 and ends in 2061. They've been established, so okay. So to grow this, I'm just going to go back up to Growth, select on the Grow Stands, select years from the schedule table that we just created, grow stand table only, and include the SVS input files. And I'm going to select Start. So FPS is growing this stand out for 50 years in 5-year periods. And when it gets done, we should be able to see it in the stand visualization system. So with the routine complete, I'm going to go back up to Grow and select on Stand Visualization. Select OK. And we've got our stand 1023 in year 2014. To look at the next period, simply click on the Next button, and it'll take it 5 years out to 2019 and get an idea of what it'll look like then. If you scroll down here to the bottom at this little down arrow, it'll give you all of the options that you created in your schedule table period. So I'm going to go to the last one, and we'll take a look at that. And that's what it'll look like in about 50 years. All right, so I'm going to go back to the initial year of 2011, I think it was. So I'm just going to select First. So these are kind of the standard visuals that are commonly used. However, there are some other options that we want to make you aware of. These can be found up under the SVS options. If you select that and go down to Screen Layouts, right now we're on this 3-view layout. There are some other options such as Profile View, Overhead View, and I'll let you guys kind of explore some of that. Some of the ones that I've found helpful is this Image and Graphs. If we select that, now we've still got the view of it, but we've also got some more interesting characteristics here that describe the stand in terms of number of trees per acre and the dBH frequency, as well as the number of trees per acre and the height frequency. So just like before, we can go to this next and see the transition over time in both trees per acre for height and dBH. And if we want to go to the last one, we can see that in 50 years, there's quite a few trees in that 170 to 200 foot tall range. And if we compare that to where we started with, there was a lot of trees in the 60 to 90 foot tall range. So these are oftentimes useful to put in reports or to see another visual way of how the stand and the trees within it change over time. All of these can be printed or saved just by going to File, Save Image As, and here it'll ask you, typically I choose to save to file in a Windows BMP format at a fairly large image size, and 24 bits per pixel. Always maintain the aspect so that it doesn't look goofy, and just say OK, and it'll ask you where you want to save it on your computer. And you've just saved that image for that particular year, and that is how that's done. Okay, so I'm going to go back and choose the 3-view layout again. And this time I'm going to go up to SVS options, and I'm going to select this marking and treatment. I'm going to open that up, and every tree out there now has a little yellow dot on it. So over here at the Stand Info tab, if I go through and each of these yellow dots where trees are located, essentially apply paint with my little paint gun, these are the trees that are going to be cut or marked for harvest. So you'll notice as we do this, in the Stand Info tab, it'll give us a marked tree, average diameter, and average height. And it'll tell us the average diameter and average height of the unmarked trees, as well as the basal area. Number of trees we've marked per acre is 14.25, and the ones we're going to leave is 151.46. So not sure that this is the way I would suggest managing your forest, but it's kind of an interesting thing to know that it exists, and that there's kind of some rudimentary options in which to play some games visually. So as you get an idea of what you want to do with your stand treatment and you finish the marking, you can go over here to this treatment tab, and there's an option to cut and remove trees leaving stumps, cut and leave trees, keep branches on cut trees, or cut and leave trees, remove branches from trees. So I'm going to choose this cut and remove trees leaving stumps, and we'll see that it took all of the trees that were marked have been removed, leaving only the leaf trees. Similarly, we could go through and continue marking trees like this and say cut and leave trees but remove branches from the cut trees. And now we have the tree logs laying in the woods with just the branches removed. Again, not ultimately very helpful when it comes to making forest management decisions, but want to make you aware that some of these things do exist within SVS. To quickly bring the stand back to its original form, SVS options, marking and treatment. We go over to the treatment and select uncut, then all the trees come back, and you're back to square one with no trees cut. The last thing I wanted to cover was the tree designer. So again, SVS options, tree designer. And this is the dialog box where you can define how a tree shape is, what the tree looks like, the coloration, the branches and whorls, and some things like that. So I'm going to select Western Larch to look at, and over here under species code, there's a drop-down menu of all the species possible. So scroll down to the bottom, and I'm just going to choose WL for Western Larch. And I'm going to select this height view. So right now, the default settings for Western Larch essentially look like this. This is adjustable as far as stem color, branch color, foliage. There are varying scales for this as well as all of the other species. And while I don't suggest they all need to be manipulated, should you find yourself in a situation where you need to either create a species or vary the way it's looking to differentiate from other species, this would be where you'd do that. So in review, we have used SVS in conjunction with FPS. We've explored some of the standard view options SVS offers. We've seen how to manipulate the visualization by selecting areas for harvest. And finally, we've seen how to update tree profiles, colors, and shapes within SVS. I appreciate your time today and look forward to visiting with you in the future. Thank you.